You're listening to Pombo and Peter's Picks, the home of your favorite sports betting podcast. Presented by The Daily Goat.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Pombo and Peter's Picks. I'm Jason Pombo, joined as always by Peter Alves. Peter, how are we doing today?
Not bad. One week, well, half a week until Spider-Man comes out. I mean, when this podcast drops, Spider-Man comes out. It's hype.
Yes.
Yes. So good.
I agree. I'll be going tonight, and Peter will be going tomorrow. So very exciting. Also, some exciting news. Peter, it's officially the end of the regular season for fantasy. How many leagues are you in, and how many or how'd you do this season? You make the playoffs? How'd you fare?
I'm in 6 leagues, and I made the playoffs in 5 of them. The one league I didn't make it in is my most expensive one, shocker. So, yeah, it's good.
I had a pretty solid year. I'm in 4 leagues this year, and I made the playoffs in 4 of them. I had a first round bye in 2 of them, and then the other 2 I had a fifth, and 16 make the playoffs. So my goal is, can I win one of them? So if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think I have a shot to win it all in 2 of them. I think I have a shot to win in the other 2.
Oh, there's one of them I lost Derrick Henry. I lost Calvin Ridley. I lost Robert Woods. I lost
that's our league,
McCaffrey.
Right?
No, that's not.
Oh, that's your other one. Yeah.
I mean, your league. I'm dead in that too. So
yeah. Well, I think you're in 6th and I'm in 5th.
Yeah.
So I mean, we made the playoffs. We'll see how far we get. My team in that league, Justin Herbert's been awesome, but Nick Chubb's been inconsistent. I've also had a lot of injuries, as you have you. So we'll see. In my family league, I'm pretty confident in that team, Peter. I'll read you my roster. I don't mean to get in too much of a tangent here, but this is my roster.
Nobody cares about your fantasy football team.
I know. Nobody cares. But I know Matt Cunha's listening, and Matt Cunha also is in the playoffs. So this is my team in my family league, right? Stafford, Cordell Patterson, Josh Jacobs, Terry McLaurin, Cooper Kupp, Noah Fant, DeAndre Hopkins, and then some guys on my bench right now: Saquon Barkley, Montgomery, Darrell Williams on KC, Hunter Henry. That's a pretty good team, right, Peter?
Hopefully, Terry McLaurin plays.
But here's the thing: if he doesn't, you hope. So Montgomery's been okay as well. I don't know. I have that first round bye in that league. I like.
Oh, you're straight. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I had a good regular season, but we'll get off the subject of fantasy football for now. So let's get back into our little world, Peter. I went 4-1. It was my best week I've had in at least a month. My wins were the Tampa Bay Bucs -3.5 over the Bills. The Bucs ended up winning in overtime. That was a nice W. I thought I was going to lose that one for a second. I was going to be really frustrated about that one. I had the Seahawks -7.5 over the Houston Texans. That was a W. I had the Ravens backdoor +2.5 over the Browns. That covered by 0.5 point. Cha-ching. And then I had the Falcons +2.5 over Cam Newton's Panthers. And my one loss was the Washington football team +4.5. They came back late at the end, but it wasn't enough. So I was 4-1. And I had a shot of going 5-0, but I also had a real shot of going 2-3. So.
Well, I went 2-3. I won on the Packers -12.5 and the Niners -1.5. We lost on the Washington football team, as you said. Browns -2.5. That was so fake. And then I finally lost a premium pick. Cardinals -1.5 since week 8. Fun fact: you are beating me now. Overall, you're beating me by 2 games. You are lead? 37-32, and I am 35-30.
You're doing better with your premium picks than me, though.
Yeah, I am 9-5 on premium, and you are 7-7.
Well, yeah, 7-7 now. So I got to do better on that. We'll see. I like how I had the Bucs last week in my premium, so I barely skated.
That barely hit too.
Exactly. I could have went 2-3. The Bucs could have lost. We're not covered. The Ravens should not have covered. But then you look at the other side of the coin.
That's another fantasy thing. He literally screwed me. Lamar Jackson, 1 point. I should have started Burrow.
There was a lot of fantasy screw-ins this week. James Robinson's another one.
Yeah, I have him in another league too. I'm never starting him again. Thanks, Urban Meyer. We'll get into that later. Shot to the moon.
But a solid week for us. We'll see if we can rebound next. We'll see if Peter can rebound next week. We'll see if I can stay the course. But Peter, let's get into the Rams Cardinals. The Monday Night Football game this past week, I thought it was the game of the week. I thought it was fantastic. The Rams ended up pulling it out 30-23. Matt Stafford had one of his best games of the season. He was 23 of 30 for 287 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had a QBR of 86.3 and a quarterback rating of 139.2. So Cooper Kupp continues his dominance, 13 receptions, 123 yards and a touchdown. And Odell Beckham, he had his best game as a Ram, 6 receptions for 77 yards and a touchdown. On the other side of things with the Cardinals, I do not think Kyler Murray played his best game, despite the fact that the offensive line wasn't impressive. Murray was 32 of 49 for 383 yards. He had 2 interceptions. He had a QBR of 36.1 and a quarterback rating of 72.1. DeAndre Hopkins was mostly held in check. He had 5 receptions for 54 yards on 12 targets. Also, something to note from this game, the Rams were dealing a plethora of COVID cases. Tyler Higbee was out. Jalen Ramsey was out. Darrell Henderson was out. So they were missing a lot of their guys. And they were able to win this game on the road to move to 9-4 on the season, to stay alive in the division, while the Cardinals fell to 10-3, and they have dropped now 3 games in a row at home. So what do you think of this game, and what's your outlook on the NFC West now?
NFC West is really, really interesting. I still think the Cardinals are going to pull it off, but I mean, the Rams could still pull it off. The Cardinals, surprisingly, are what, like 8-0 on the road or something, or 6-0 on the road.
They're a good road team, yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And I mean, I said last week the Cardinals get no respect. Maybe they get no respect because the 2 primetime games they both lost. But did you see the last play on the game where literally Aaron Donald was unblocked and he like just ran 10 yards right to Kyler Murray?
Yeah.
I was like,
I
was like, holy crap. How do you not cover that? Like,
seriously, I think the Cardinals, to me, this proved they're a little fraudulent. I don't put them in the same class as I do the Bucs and the Packers. And it wouldn't shock me if the Cardinals kind of did not win the NFC West. That team didn't impress me. The offensive line isn't good. The pass defense got shredded. DeAndre Hopkins isn't healthy. And Kyler Murray, he keeps taking these hits. Who knows how much longer he'll be healthy? He's already missed 3 games this season. On that last play of the game that you described, that was abysmal on all ends of the field. It seemed like the Rams' offensive line and skill position players thought Kyler Murray was going to spike the ball, which he should have. And Kyler Murray thought he was just running a play. So that's 2 instances now where at the last drive, and technically the last play of the game, where the Cardinals have kind of melted. The other one that comes to mind was the Packers-Cardinals game in which A.J. Green didn't look for the ball. So that's a poor reflection on Cliff Kingsbury, who I thought he's done a good job this season, but his lack of awareness.
People are calling for his head, though.
Bad.
And even though they're 10-3, people are calling for his head.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far, but to me, he had his worst game coaching that I might have seen. I think he had a bad call on that 4th down play. I think he should have kicked the field goal with Matt Prater. I understand it was from 50 yards out, but I think at that point, you roll with it. Again, the last possession where they got that onside kick, they did nothing. They had no plan. It was abysmal. And to me, I think this takes Kingsbury out of the running for Coach of the Year because he is getting a lot of criticism. And I think it's warranted. This was a bad performance. And to me, this proves why the Cardinals are fraudulent, and it's why people don't hold them to these high standards.
Well, to be fair, it is 2021. Everybody is fraudulent. Even the Packers and the Bucs. Bucs have no secondary, and I think the Packers are gonna get done in by Mason Crosby. I really do.
Not a Mason Crosby guy, huh?
Nah, their special teams is absolutely terrible.
Oh my God, you're right. The onside kick.
It's gonna cost them somehow, and Rodgers is gonna
right.
be like, "This is why I'm leaving."
The onside kick. We'll talk about the Packers at some point, but the onside kick, the penalties on special teams, the returns.
Yeah,
the Bears. It was like Devin Hester was still in the game. But yeah, I think it was a big win for the Rams, though. I think they're back on track. Now they're still dealing with a lot of COVID cases. Odell Beckham Jr. tested positive on Tuesday. So I think they were up to 8 this week now. So they play the Seahawks this week, and the Seahawks are coming off of 2 consecutive victories against the Texans, and then prior to that against the 49ers. So I don't want to call it a gimme game for the Rams, but the Rams need all the help they can get in this NFC West. They need the Cardinals to slip up, but they also need to take care of their own business.
Yeah, they still can't sleep because the Niners. I mean, they're still 2 games back, but the Niners are there too.
Yeah, you can't sleep at all. Next game, let's shift. Actually, let's talk Niners now because we're on the topic of the NFC West. So 49ers Bengals. This game was an overtime thriller that concluded with the 49ers winning 26-23. Jimmy Garoppolo was 27 of 41 for 296 yards and 2 touchdowns. He had a quarterback rating of 103.3 and a QBR of 39.4. George Kittle was fantastic in this game. He was targeted 15 times. He brought down 13 catches for 151 yards and a touchdown. Phenomenal. And Brandon Ayuk, it was good to see him get in the end zone. He had 6 catches, 62 yards and a touchdown. Other side of things, Joe Burrow and company. They lose another game at home. They're now 3-4 at home and 7-6 on the season. Burrow was 25 of 34, 348 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times, and to me, he still doesn't look right. Your guy Joe Mixon was held under 60 yards on 18 carries. And Jamar Chase, he had 2 impressive touchdown catches. He had 5 receptions for 77 yards.
Should have been 3.
And T. Higgins, he had another good game, 5 receptions for 114 yards on 7 targets. So Niners, they improved to 7-6. They stay alive in the wild card hunt in the NFC. And the Bengals, they blow an opportunity to gain some ground in the AFC North, especially with the Steelers losing and the Ravens losing. So I think that was a blown opportunity for them because they should have won this game.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, first on the Niners, this is why nobody wants to face them, I think. I think they're going to be a tough out in the NFC, so they're going to face the 2 seed. So they're probably going to face the Packers and Bucs.
Green Bay.
That's a bad matchup. But on the other side, the Bengals, as you said, they should have won this game. But I mean, with Lamar Jackson's injury, that division's wide open again. I really think the Browns are going to win that division. Like, the Ravens have too many injuries, and I think Joe Burrow is one of the 5 quarterbacks that you can never count out in a game. I think that he's literally amazing. I think, even though they did lose.
Yeah, to me, he didn't have his best game. I just don't think he looks healthy to me. I think that's the way I would kind of slice it. But the Bengals, a team fighting for a wild card spot, they needed to win this game, and they failed to do so. And it was a big win for the Niners because despite the fact that the Rams won, the Niners 7-6, they're right there and they're in prime position to land a wild card spot. And they're a team that, like you just talked about, the Bucs and the Packers or potentially the Cardinals don't want to play in the first round. I compare them to the Indianapolis Colts. They're a team that runs the ball pretty hard. They have a quarterback that can keep you afloat, and they have a defense that has playmakers, adequate head coach. Again, those 2 teams are those sleepers. Anything else on this game?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, if you want to put a Super Bowl bet for the 49ers, I wouldn't hate it.
What are they at? Do you know off the top of your head?
They were 30-1 before this game. They probably went down a little bit.
They're probably similar to that.
Yeah. It's pretty good value.
Yeah, if they can somehow again, if the Cardinals kind of fall apart down the stretch, then yeah, maybe. It seems like a lot of other teams in the NFC have kind of folded. Washington, that we're going to talk about soon, they had a bad loss. So
I'll say this again. It is crazy. Nobody is the clear favorite on either side.
Yeah, I agree. It's wide open. We have this December month of football is set to be one of the most exciting months in the NFL that we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah, because it's top 3 all tied, right? On both sides.
In the AFC. Yeah. Again, even in the NFC, same thing. It's all based on tiebreakers, and it's all based on conference records, which are huge, especially with these tiebreakers. But moving on to an exciting game, Bucs Bills. So in this game, it was pretty much a tale of 2 halves. At the end of the first half, Tampa Bay was up 24-3 over the Bills, but the Bills battled back and they sent the game in overtime. However, Tom Brady does what Tom Brady does, and he threw a game-winning touchdown reception to Brashard Perriman to win the game 33-27. The Bucs improved to 10-3 on the season, and the Bills, they fell to 7-6. They've lost 2 games in a row now, and this was a game that they had an opportunity to come back in, and they just fell short. Josh Allen was 36 of 54 for 308 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. he had a foot injury. They're labeling as like a foot sprain. He left the game. Well, he left the media session on Sunday with a walking boot on, but he's considered day to day. So, but that is something to monitor as the Bills go forward here. I know they have the Panthers this week, then they have the Patriots the following week. So that is something to monitor. Josh Allen was the Bills' leading rusher, 12 carries, 109 yards, and he had a touchdown on the ground. And Stephon Diggs, he had 7 receptions, 74 yards on 13 targets. He had another pretty big drop. So Diggs, I don't think he's had the year that he had last year. I still think he's the Bills' number one option far and away, but he hasn't had as successful a season as he had last year. Other side of things, Tom Brady and the Bucs, 31 of 46, 2 touchdowns. Brady had a QBR of 75.2 and a quarterback rating of 105.6. Leonard Fournette, 19 carries, 113 yards, and a touchdown, including a 47-yard touchdown run. Chris Godwin, he had a great game, 10 receptions, 105 yards. And Mike Evans had a phenomenal touchdown reception. He had 6 catches, 91 yards. So when you look at this game, it was a game that the Bills kind of needed to have, and they fell just short. Sure, you could say it was a good comeback in the second half, but losing in the fashion that they did after winning the coin toss and getting a chance to score and win, that must leave a sour taste in your mouth if you're a Bills fan.
So the Bills, listen, Josh McDermott, I think should have been fired after the first half. They gave no carries to a running back. If you don't count Josh Allen in the first half. How do you do that? I know it's the Bucs defense and like you got gashed for it last week, but like I don't get how you can do that. I mean, Josh Allen is their best running back, I guess, because Devin Singletary is terrible and Zach Moss is inactive all the time. But I mean, the Bills are scuffling. I don't even think the Bills are going to make the playoffs. The Bills remind me of the Bucs last year, but like I don't think they can get out of their own way because the Colts, Bengals, Browns, and even Broncos are just all 7-6, and then the Chargers obviously. And I don't know what to do with this team because on paper the Bills should make the playoffs. They have a top 5 defense. They have an electric offense, and then the Bucs on the other side, it's business as usual. Tom Brady's just gonna do his thing. He'll probably win MVP if Aaron Rodgers doesn't. And I mean, he can run now too. So
yeah. Brady had 16 rushing yards, including a rushing touchdown. He had a 12-yard run as well. But I like how you mentioned the Bills running backs. 0 carries in the first half, as you mentioned. In the second half, though, they had 7 carries for 64 yards, which is over 10 yards per attempt. So they had success when they actually decided to give it to their running backs in the second half. When you look at this Bills team, to me, they're not as electric as they were last year, which isn't a surprise. Josh Allen has had some mistakes. To me, it feels like that Bills offensive line hasn't done him any favors.
Oh, no, he gets hit after like 1 second.
Yeah, he gets sacked 3 times in this game, but the Bills still have enough pieces to win this game, I shouldn't say to win the game, but they should be better than 7-6. This team right now should be a 9-4 team, and they're not. I understand Tre'Davious White is out. I understand that injuries happen, but you're a team that has the talent to win the AFC, and they're just not showing it. And like you mentioned, they're a fringe playoff team. They're hanging on by a thread. And this week's game against Cam Newton and the Panthers is must win. So assuming they win that, they'll be 8-6. Then they have to go to Gillette to take on the Patriots. If they lose that, they're 8-7 with 3 games left. With 2 games left, I'm sorry. So at that point, you pretty much have to go 2-0. I'm not sure who they have on their schedule. I know one of them's the Jets. And then I can check that really quick. Week 17, they have the
Falcons, Jets.
Falcons, and the Falcons, they're playing some good football. I understand they've been inconsistent, but they looked good against Carolina, and they looked healthier than they have had in probably a month. Not saying Buffalo won't be favored or anything, but that's not a game I don't think they can just wake up and win.
Buffalo's offense doesn't even they literally confuse me too because they're not a running team and they should be because they play in the cold and they just want to pass all the time. They're literally the Chiefs 2.0, but they can't obviously.
Like I said this last week, they built their team to beat the Chiefs, but they forgot that every other team in the AFC can catch up to them. And that's kind of what happened. I think Brian Dable, Bill's offensive coordinator, I think he's taken a hit in terms of reputation this season. Last year, he was looked at as one of the hot NFL candidates to get a head coaching job, and he didn't end up getting one. He was rumored to end up with the Chargers. He was rumored to end up in a couple different spots, and he didn't land in any of them. And he came back to Buffalo, and I think he hasn't had the success they had last year. And that's not good. And I think on a week-to-week basis, it seems like he's just trying to air it out. He's completely abandoned the run like we've talked about for the last 10 minutes. And it feels like the calls in the red area haven't been good. I'm sorry, they haven't. I think the Buffalo should have went for it on 4th and 2 with a chance to win the game late in the fourth quarter. I would have went for it. It felt like they had the Bucs defense on the ropes. Tampa Bay was so tired they had to use a timeout. And McDermott elected to kick a field goal in that spot, which I understand and I don't have a huge issue with. But at that kind of spot, you need to realize what's going on. Tampa Bay's gassed, and they couldn't hack it. So I think Bill's coaching staff has taken a significant hit, in my opinion, in terms of perception.
Yeah, one of the worst disappointments of the year, I think.
Yeah, you're right.
Bills.
Another game I want to talk about here is Dallas Cowboys, Washington football team. It was a pretty big divisional game. Now, Dallas had a couple game lead in the NFC East, but if Washington won this game, they'd be right in there. Washington trailed at halftime 24-0. And Dallas was playing phenomenal defense. Taylor Heineke was turning the ball over. He ended up getting injured in the game, but Washington did what they've been doing all season, playing as strong in the second half to make it close, but not close enough. The Cowboys ended up winning the game 27-20, despite the fact that I don't think Dak Prescott was that good this game. He was 22 of 39 for 211 yards. He had a touchdown and 2 picks. He had a QBR of 9.9. Zeke Elliott, I know he's banged up. He had 12 carries for 45 yards. CeeDee Lamb, he had 7 receptions for 61 yards on 10 targets. Amari Cooper, he was quiet. 5 receptions for 51 yards. When you look at Washington side of things, actually, I also want to mention Micah Parsons, who's been phenomenal this season. He's a
lock to win defensive rookie of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
He might win. He might win defensive player of the year too.
Yeah, he might.
Not for TJ
He
Watt.
hit the quarterback twice. He had a tackle for loss. He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles. He was all over the field. Washington,
and he plays the inside. He doesn't even play the outside.
He plays anywhere you need him to. That's why during the draft I had him as my number 1 defensive player, and I said he should be a top 5 to 7 pick, and he slid all the way to number 12. And it's a colossal mistake from a lot of those NFL franchises. You look at a team like, I'm trying to think of a team that kind of probably could have used him. I know J.C. Horn's been hurt, but you tell me that wouldn't have made a difference to that Carolina front 7.
What about the Falcons? Kyle Pitts is terrible.
I don't think Kyle Pitts is terrible, but I see what you're saying.
He has 1 red zone target in the last
But to be fair, how many did Julio Jones have when he was in Atlanta? The answer is not as many.
All right, fair. Listen, all right, whatever.
But switching over to the Washington football team, Heineke, I think he had his worst game of the season. He was 11 of 25, 122 yards, a touchdown and a pick. He had a QBR of 4.9. He was sacked 4 times. And his sacks, they accounted for a loss of 46 yards. And he ended up getting hurt in the game. Kyle Allen came in. Allen was 4 of 9 for 53 yards. Antonio Gibson, he led the Washington Carriers, 10 carries, 36 yards, but Washington was never able to establish a run game. As a team, they had 23 carries for 100 yards. And Terry McLaurin, he left the game with a concussion. He had no receptions on 4 targets in this game. Cam Sims had 3 receptions for 69 yards and a touchdown. Adam Humphries had 4 receptions for 34 yards. But this Washington team, Taylor Heineke, he's banged up. Terry McLaurin's banged up. That's a tough loss for them. They fall to 6-7 on the season, and Dallas moves to 9-4 and have a pretty comfortable lead on the NFC East. So it's good to see for Dallas because I think they need to get that team healthy because they have a lot of COVID concerns. They have a lot of injury concerns. Dallas is just a football team that seems like they need a couple weeks to reset, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, Tyron Smith is in and out of the lineup. I don't think Dak Prescott is healthy either. He's been terrible for 4 weeks now, and Elliott's not been healthy since week 4. I don't know why they don't rest him. I know Tony Pollard's been out. Oh, your best friend Tony Pollard's out.
Yeah,
I don't get why they don't rest Elliott either. I think the Cowboys, if healthy, they can make it all the way to the Super Bowl. I think they're better than the Packers and the Bucs because they have a better defense, I think. But I don't know. I mean, the other side, Washington, that was a rat line. I almost texted Matt on Saturday that literally changed the pick. The Cowboys -4.5. And every time they scored a touchdown, I was like, whatever. But I mean, Washington's still the 7th seed. I mean, I guess they control their own destiny. They face the Eagles and then the Washington. I mean, they face the Eagles, Giants, and then Cowboys again. But I don't know. I mean, the 7th seed is literally like pick anybody.
Yeah, any Philly, Minnesota, whoever you want to throw in there.
Vikings.
Washington's defense has tightened up. Remember the first month of the year? Like they were real bad. I remember in the preseason, we talked about how that defense.
They should have carried them.
Yeah, we both, I think, had Chase Young as the Defensive Player of the Year winner. Like, we both imagined that Washington had a legitimate shot to win the division, and they would do it on defense. But that hasn't been the case. But Ron Rivera has done a pretty good job of changing course because this team looked like they were going to bottom out, and they haven't. They're floating around 500, and they're in competition for a wild card spot. I don't love Dallas as much as you do. Prescott has not looked the same to me the last month. They're banged up. Amari Cooper, he's coming, but he's now back from COVID. Michael Gallup, he's been back for a couple weeks now. He still doesn't look the same to me. Zeke Elliott, Pollard, both banged up. This Cowboys team needs to get healthy before I have a legitimate take on where they should conclude the season. If I were to rank the teams in the NFC, I go Green Bay 1, Tampa Bay 2. I probably go Rams 3, Cowboys 4.
Because I mean, the Cowboys are going to face the Cardinals or the Rams, which I don't think you want to do that either.
If you were the Cowboys, no. And I think the Cowboys would lose them.
Yeah.
I think the Cowboys could beat Arizona. I don't think they'd beat the Rams. And I don't think Mike McCarthy is a good enough coach to get out of his own way at that particular point. All right, let's move on to Urban Meyer in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars.
Urban Meyer. Oh, my God.
So Urban Meyer and the Jaguars, they are 2-11, but a big story released by Tom Pelissero on NFL Network was released Saturday morning. And it was a long piece. I don't know if you've read it yet, that pretty much torched Urban Meyer in a number of different ways. I'll read you some of the reports on here. During a staff meeting. So according to Tom Pelissero on NFL Network, quote, during a staff meeting, Urban Meyer delivered a biting message that he's a winner and his assistant coaches are losers. According to several people informed of the contents of the meeting, challenging each coach individually to explain what they've ever won and forcing them to defend their resumes. Eek on that one. Moving on here. Quote, receiver Marvin Jones, one of the locker room's most respected and mild-mannered veterans, became so angry with Meyer's public and private criticism of the receiver group that he left the facility until other staff members convinced him to come back and had a heated argument with Meyer during practice. So again, eek. And then last but not least here, quote, Urban Meyer ordered James Robinson's benching after an opening drive fumble in last week's 37-7 loss to the Rams. Then had running backs coach Bernie Parmley stop Robinson from re-entering the game, insisting Carlos Hyde stays in. Only after Lawrence questioned Meyer on the sideline about Robinson's absence was Robinson allowed to return in the second quarter. Lawrence said after the game, quote, bottom line is James is one of our best players, and he's got to be on the field, and we addressed it. And I feel like we're in a good spot, and the whole team, we're good. So, again, according to Pelissero, quote, several Jaguars players vented their frustration to Rams players after that game. Sources say, reiterating a common complaint that Meyer, who had no NFL experience, doesn't treat them like adults. So, Peter, those are 4 points that are pretty damning towards Urban Meyer in a number of different ways. Clearly a hit piece from somebody internally there. What's your takeaway on it? Should Urban Meyer be fired today?
He should have been fired after that clubbing incident. Listen, go back to Ohio State. Go back to wherever you want. Say that you have family issues. Say that you have a health problem. Do whatever you got to do to get out of there. You don't play James Robinson. Even you didn't play him this week. You had like 4 carries. You play Carlos Hyde over him. What does Carlos Hyde bring you over James Robinson? What does Carlos Hyde have on you? Like, he has to have dirt on him, or he just played with him in college.
He did. Carlos Hyde went to Ohio State.
It's
So of the four things that I read, the benching of James Robinson was probably the thing that
well, because 2
I
weeks
I
ago he
cared
was
about the
like, "I
least.
don't make those decisions. Ask the running back coach."
Yeah. So that's a clear deflection. It seemed like maybe the running backs coach was the one that kind of leaked the info, or a friend of the running backs coach, because that seemed like the running back coach had pretty solid info on that. Or somebody in Trevor Lawrence's camp. It
But if
was,
you're
it was
Trevor
something like
Lawrence
that.
and you hate him, why don't you go to like Khan and you're like, "Listen, get him out of here. I want like a real coach, please."
Because
Like,
at the end of the day, Urban Meyer does have pedigree in the collegiate world. I understand he's 2-11 now. I get that, but he's not like um, what's that guy? Ben McAdoo or anything like that. Clueless or Freddie Kitchens or something like that. Like he does have some pedigree. Of the four things I did mention, the James Robinson benching was the one I cared about least, simply because he fumbled the ball, and if Bill Belichick benched Damian Harris, we wouldn't blink if he fumbled the ball. So I understand that aspect of it, but the other stuff, calling coaches losers, that's a bad look. Questioning their resumes, dude, you're the one that hired the assistant coaches. It's not like somebody else hired them; you hired them. Like that makes no sense to me. And he needs to take some accountability. Clearly, it seems like internally they don't feel like he is. And the fight with Marvin Jones, he denied it in his post-game press conference this past week. Again, don't know the truth of it, but this report seems pretty accurate, and it seems like there's a lot of bad stuff in Jacksonville right now. I think Urban Meyer will get fired at the end of the season.
yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, Kellen Mond should go there, or whatever his name is, the offensive coordinator in Cowboys. Josh McDaniel,
Kellen Moore.
Kellen Moore should go there. Josh McDaniel should go there.
Yeah, that's an interesting
Eric
spot for
Bieniemy should
McDaniels.
go there, but I don't think
Yeah.
he's ever gonna leave.
Yeah, Bieniemy is another. Again, what are they going to look at if they end up moving on from Urban Meyer?
You should get
Could
an
they look?
offensive, obviously.
But here's the thing: is I don't think they're going to hire a first-time head coach, first-time NFL head coach. I think they're probably going to hire a veteran, somebody like Marvin Lewis, Jim Caldwell,
No,
some.
and Lawrence is gonna roll his eyes and be like,
That's
"Oh my
that's
god."
what I think they're probably going to do. I mean, who knows? The cons, they really they want to be patient with this, but at the end of the day, how can you be patient when ever since they hired Urban Meyer, it's been
Can you
a
hire
colossal
Pete Carroll?
failure.
Can you hire Pete Carroll?
They could technically trade for him.
Because I think Pete Carroll's gonna get fired.
I think if Carroll gets fired, that could be interesting. I don't know if Carroll would want to go
Start
to
all over again.
that team. Yeah, that team is so far and away. Like they're nowhere close. So Urban Meyer, I mean, again, like when they first hired him, it's been bad since he's been hired. From the whole, they got fined at OTAs, from the whole Tim Tebow signing to the whole. What was the other thing that happened with Urban Meyer in the offseason that was.
Yeah, that
Oh,
coach.
they hired.
Yeah, that
Oh,
hired.
yeah,
Yeah.
Chris Doyle, the strength and conditioning coach. He was let go because of his racist remarks that he made in Iowa, whatever it was. So that poorly reflected on Urban Meyer. Then, of course, we head into the season, and it's been bad from the beginning. And on top of the whole, people took a picture with him and the girl and stuff like that. And he didn't fly back with the team. He stayed in Ohio. So it just seems like it's getting worse and worse. And Urban Meyer doesn't look happy. Did you see him shake Mike Vrabel's hand at the end of the game?
Oh yeah, he looks dead inside.
And the thing is, Mike Vrabel got his coaching start with Urban Meyer. Mike Vrabel started coaching at Ohio State under Urban Meyer. And he just didn't give him the time of day. I mean, to each its own at that point. Maybe it ended in bad terms, or Urban Meyer's clearly frustrated. His reputation has been destroyed. It feels like everybody kind of thinks he can't coach, period.
Or that quote that, "Oh wow, we're facing Alabama every week, huh?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. Yeah. Yeah, that too. I did clown Vic Fangio for that, but yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Rough look for Urban Meyer and the Jaguars. They need to. They are in danger of ruining Trevor Lawrence. I don't
Oh
think.
yeah,
that's
no,
off the table.
he's been a bust this year just because of Urban Meyer.
He's thrown 14 interceptions. He threw 4 interceptions this past game. Again, I'm not totally blaming him because what does he have to work with? James Robinson's been in and out of the lineup. The offensive line, who are paid handsomely, have not performed. The skill position players are pretty much non-existent. He doesn't really have many NFL caliber receivers, so it's legitimate concerns. But at the end of the day, Meyer needs to be held accountable, and I think Trevor Lawrence. Again, I'm not going to count him out, but you go in a year or two, and I don't think it's a lock that he's a home run. I just don't feel that way.
No, but you got to give him a ton of time.
Oh, absolutely.
You have to give him.
Exactly. Like that's why
It's not
he'll
like Mac
survive.
Jones where you have Belichick and you just
Like
figure it out.
Meyer's going to survive this head coaching regime and the one after that. Lawrence is going to survive 2 or 3 head coaching regimes while Jacksonville is still banking on him. So this could be a blip on the road. I mean, everyone says Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions his first year, but the league's changed. So I don't know if that comparison is as warranted anymore as it used to be. So,
I mean, look at Andrew Luck. He threw a ton of interceptions too.
Yeah, he did his whole career, though. That was one of his issues. He turned the ball over a lot. And I liked Andrew Luck. I thought he was one of the best young players in the game. And he went to a couple AFC championship games, and it felt like he really changed that Colts franchise around. Can Trevor Lawrence do the same thing in Jacksonville? I don't know.
We'll see.
But moving on, let's talk some Cam Newton, the Carolina Panthers. So solely on Cam Newton, his last 2 games in which he's been benched twice. Newton 20 of 44 passing, which is a completion percentage of 45%. He's thrown 3 interceptions. He has a quarterback rating of 37.1. And the Panthers have lost both games. They lost 33-10 to Miami a couple weeks back. And this past week, they lost the Falcons 29-21. So Cam Newton's tenure in Carolina 2.0 is a bust.
Cam Newton back to the bench. Matt Rule, I think if it wasn't for your contract, you would have got fired already.
But Peter, I know you mentioned that you were questioning Matt Rule's job the last couple of weeks, and I mentioned the contract. A lot of other people are doing the same thing you are. Joe Brady got fired as offensive coordinator.
That's just a scapegoat, though. Like, what? Joe Brady, listen, you have no McCaffrey, and you have Darnold, PJ Walker, and Newton, and you're like, figure it out.
And Joe Brady got head coaching interviews last year. He interviewed with the Falcons. He was one of the final candidates for the Falcons job before Arthur Smith got it. So this isn't like Joe Brady is this Joe Schmo. Like Joe Brady, he has pedigree. He was Joe Burrow's offensive coordinator at LSU. He's one of the most probably anticipated head coaching candidate in the next 5-10 years. And he was fired, which to me, I was shocked about. Felt like the ownership in Carolina was putting some pressure on Rule after 2 years in which they're not going to make the playoffs, 2 years in which they struggled. But I don't think it's all on Rule's fault, but I am losing faith on Rule. I was high on Rule, and I have been for quite some time, but their identity.
The game. He started Newton, and then he put in PJ Walker, and then he put Newton back in, and then he's like, "Nah, this isn't gonna work." And they put PJ Walker back in.
He's all over the place. He's in his own head. I wonder if the Joe Brady firing has him now kind of backpedaling a little bit, worrying about his future. Is he also sitting there thinking I want to go back to college? So there's a lot of different variables here. He doesn't have his quarterback of the future yet, despite the fact that they exercised Sam Darnold's $17 million option, despite the fact that Cam Newton, they paid him $6 million to finish off the year. And neither of them have worked. And PJ Walker, he's just a backup, so you don't even count him in the conversation. And McCaffrey has played 6 games in the last 2 years or something stupid like that, whatever it is, 10 games in the last 2 years. And Carolina's had injuries on both sides of the ball. But I think Carolina ownership is questioning Rule, and I think Rule is questioning himself, questioning his decisions, questioning his quarterback play, questioning his hires. I think in Carolina that ship could sink. I really do, and you know how much I've been a fan of Rule.
Because he's getting desperate. He's kind of like he's like the Vikings, I think.
Zimmer,
that's why I'm pretty sure that's why Dalvin Cook played on Thursday.
I think Zimmer's in a worse spot because I think if Minnesota doesn't make the playoffs, I think Zimmer's done. I do think Rule can make it till next year, but I think next year is probably put up or shut up time. If Carolina finishes this year, what's the record now? They're
5-8.
5-8, right? If they finish 6, let's say they finish 6-11, and next year they go 7-10, Rule's done. Or if Carolina starts off slow next year, let's say they start off 2-6, Rule's done.
Are they going to be the first ones to pick a quarterback next year?
I think they're going to be
probably right.
No, I don't think. I think they're going to be in the mindset where they want a veteran quarterback. I think they're going to be in the Russell Wilson sweepstakes. I think they're going to be in the sweepstakes for a guy like Deshaun Watson. I think they're going to be in on Jimmy Garoppolo. I think they're going to be in on all those guys. I'd say Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think Rodgers wants any part of Carolina.
Yeah, Rogers will be like, no.
Rodgers is like, yeah, I'm all set.
Yeah, I'm all set. I'll retire.
Yeah. So that's how I kind of feel. I think that's their primary plan. And Brandon Carr, shout out Rough in the Basket, he put out a good tweet and he's like, let's not forget, Carolina passed on Mac Jones and Justin Fields, both who have had some good moments here. Now the question is undetermined on both of their futures, but it is fair to bring up in the Senior Bowl, Carolina Panthers offensive staff, including Matt Rule, they coached Mac Jones in the Senior Bowl. They got to know Mac Jones before any other coaches in the NFL, and they passed on him. They went with Sam Darnold and Cam Newton. Could that decision come back to bite them in a couple years when the guy was in your face, you were coaching him, and you had the pick? Not a good look if I'm Matt Rule and company in Carolina. Any other NFL topics you want to get to?
NFL top. Davis Mills is starting for the Texans full time.
Yeah, Davis Mills is now started. Tyrod Taylor heading to the bench after he's been in and out of the lineup.
That's a good move on the Texans, I think, because they need to know if they need to draft a quarterback or not.
And tell you what, I know Davis Mills is Davis Mills, but to me, I think at times he's looked better than Zach Wilson and or Trevor Lawrence at times. Like that first half against the Patriots, he looked real good. There's been other kind of spots where he's looked good, but there's also been moments where he's looked real bad. That Thursday night game against Carolina, way back when, he looked awful. So I think the jury is still unknown about Davis Mills, but I wouldn't hold my breath if I'm Houston.
He has the rookie completions record. Do you know that?
Yeah, no,
most successful things without a thing.
Yeah, and that's what he can do. He's one of those guys that he's smart, he's accurate with the football. But the thing with Davis Mills at Stanford was he kept getting hurt. I think he had 2 ACL injuries. That's kind of why he fell, and he doesn't have the biggest arm. And Stanford struggled, and that's kind of how he fell in the draft to whatever it was, the third or fourth round. Is he the franchise quarterback in Houston? I say no, but I think he'll have a chance to compete for the starting job in 2022.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Whether they draft someone in the first round or not, or they bring in Garoppolo or whoever, whatever you want to call it, I think he'll have a chance to compete, which Houston needs guys that want to come there and compete because the roster isn't very good.
No, clearly. It's Brandon Cooks. That's it.
Yeah, pretty much. And Brandon Cooks has had a phenomenal year. They should have traded him. They would have got a pretty good package for him. But that's a conversation for a month ago. Let's move on to some NBA talk, Peter. Steph Curry, he is set. If he does not break it by the time we record this podcast, before we release this podcast on Thursday, I'll be surprised.
Yeah, isn't he like 2 away? They're facing the Knicks on
away.
Tuesday.
Yep, he's 2 3-pointers away from breaking Ray Allen's 3-point record. So hypothetically, let's say he broke the record. I mean, I think we're both, we think he's going to at MSG against the Knicks. Is Steph Curry the best 3-point shooter of all time, Peter?
Obviously. He changed the way that basketball is played in every level of the game. And I saw this debate on, I don't know if it was ESPN or not, but...
Oh, I know what you're going to say. I was just going to ask you.
Is he better than LeBron James? He might be better than LeBron James.
See, so of first take, right?
It was first take. That's
Stephen
where it was.
Smith brought up the conversation. He was talking about guys that transformed the NBA, right? Evolved the NBA. Who had a bigger, influence in the NBA? Steph Curry or LeBron James? And at first, when you pose the question, it's like, oh, LeBron James is the second best player of all time. He's won 4 championships with 3 different teams. Some would even argue he's the greatest of all time. And Steph Curry, he's right up there too, top 10 player of all time, this and that. But Steph Curry changed the game. He transformed how the NBA game is played. He changed this generation. The answer is Steph Curry in terms of who transformed the league in our era. It's Steph Curry. He gave guys an opportunity to really build a career off the 3 ball. You look at a guy like Trae Young. Would Trae Young be as highly recruited and highly coveted as he was without Steph Curry? No. Steph Curry is the best 3-point shooter of all time.
He's the best shooter of all time.
Best shooter of all time, and he transformed the league as only a couple of other players before him have done. A la like Michael Jordan Kareem, like,
And if he
Bird
can win,
Magic,
if he
like,
can win another one and have another MVP or whatever, he can be the best point guard of all time. I think.
yeah, I mean, you could already make the argument that he's right there with Magic.
Magic and yeah.
So right now he's got 3 titles, right? He's 3-2 in the finals in his career. If he gets to 4, he'll tie LeBron. I understand LeBron's been a 10. I get it. But I think some people would start to talk some Curry over LeBron. I do. I'm not one of those people. I still take LeBron over Steph Curry, but I'm a slave to the scoreboard. If Curry finishes his career 5-2 in the NBA Finals and LeBron finishes 4-6, in LeBron's last couple seasons in LA, it's first round and bust. I think you could make a legitimate argument for Steph Curry. After it looked like the Warriors were dead for a couple of years, it looked like they were done. They had so many injuries on the team. They were a lottery bound for a couple of years. Like, it looked like Steve Kerr was overrated. It looked like Draymond Green was overrated. It looked like the team was just fueled by Kevin Durant. Like, all those questions were raised, and they've come out firing. They're 22-5, Peter, as we record this. 22-5.
It's
Absurd.
true. They're in my back pocket, 14-1 to win the West.
Yep. You know what? And again, if you haven't listened yet, be sure to, well, it's a little outdated, but at this point, we had Noah and Carr of Roughing the Basket on. We did an NBA preview show, and all 3 of them had the Warriors coming out of the West. And I was like, really? Like, I'm still taking the Lakers. I said the Lakers, right? Yeah, I picked the Lakers, I think.
No, didn't you pick the Nuggets or something?
I did. You're right. I picked the Nuggets. I said Nuggets over Lakers in the West Finals. That's what I said. And I didn't have the Warriors in the West Finals. And
they're doing all this without Klay Thompson stepping on the court.
Exactly. Klay Thompson, who's hopefully back in the next month. Other NBA topics, just want to mention briefly, NBA trade season is going to be here before we know it. Trades can officially be made as of yesterday in the NBA. And there's already been a couple flurries besides the Ben Simmons rumors that we've talked about. But there's rumors that Indiana and the Pacers might blow it up with Sabonis, Miles Turner. There's been other rumors about the Sacramento Kings blowing it up with Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley, and also Portland Trailblazers. They've struggled this season. They haven't taken a step forward with Chauncey Billups. They're 11-16, and they're currently on a 5-game losing streak. Damian Lillard, his future is uncertain.
Didn't they say they're not going to trade him though?
Yeah, but I think his future is uncertain to him.
And I'm out of in fantasy. He's been out for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, and he's been hurt. CJ McCollum is a guy that people have talked about that could get moved. So I'll tell you what. Of the teams that I mentioned, which team do you think is most likely to unload? Pacers, Kings, Portland.
Probably the Pacers, because the
so
Kings
too.
at the end of the day is still young, and the Trailblazers and Portland. I don't think they want to give up Lillard, even though they should. They'll get anything they want for him. I think they're just stuck in their ways. Yeah, I think the Pacers. To be honest with you,
I wrote about the whole thing with Portland. How they were in a situation where they needed to take action and make a move. I was pounding on the desk saying they should trade for James Harden. They should trade for Nikola Vucevic, Aaron Gordon. There was a couple different guys that I wanted them to go after, and they kind of punted on all of them. And they're in a situation where CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, that combination isn't working, and they need to change it. So I say they should change it. They're going to have a new general manager there soon. Their general manager was fired after 10 seasons. But I do think Indiana's going to blow it up as well. They've struggled this year after hiring Rick Carlisle. Indiana on the season, they've just been inconsistent, and the blend hasn't worked. They're 12-17. They're 13th in the Eastern Conference. It hasn't worked out. So Sabonis should draw a lot of attention. I saw the rumor that the Lakers were interested in Sabonis.
of course
A couple
they are.
other teams. Yeah, right. Shocker. I also think Miles Turner could have some value. So I think the Pacers have some value around the league. I really, really do. Another thing I want to mention with the NBA, the Knicks, after being once talked about as a team that could make a little bit of noise in the East, they've fallen flat on their face in year 2 with Tom Thibodeau. They're 12-15, currently 12th in the Eastern Conference. Julius Randle, he's been inconsistent. Kemba Walker is flat out of the rotation. and all the money they spent this offseason hasn't really worked out. So
Yeah.
what do you think? If you're the Knicks, what do? You
No,
kind of just
nothing. I
ride
mean,
the
just
path, right?
yeah, ride the course. It's still way early. It's not even Christmas yet. So
Yeah, it is
in my
concerning,
mind,
though.
listen, NBA starts at Christmas time anyway. So
Yeah, it's just unique because I thought the Knicks were going to play hard under Tom Thibodeau, and I thought,
well, I mean, listen, you could make the same argument for the Celtics. You can make the same argument for
yeah, no, that's fair, but the Knicks
Hornets.
spent a lot of money this offseason. They went out on Kemba Walker, Fournier, like they paid Randall a lot of money, and I don't know. It's just they're just there, and they've struggled, and haven't looked like themselves. And I wonder if Tom Thibodeau's magic is wearing off a little bit. That's a question in the back of my mind.
Maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Any other NBA topics you on your mind?
Go Bulls.
Go Bulls, according to Peter.
2 seed still.
Still riding out that 2 seed, even though they have COVID and they can't play.
Yeah,
All
hey,
right.
hey. Doesn't matter.
Moving on, Peter. Let's get into our picks of the week. You want to lead off?
Let's do it. I have the Seahawks. Shocker, plus 4.5 over the Rams. Listen, Russell Wilson's playing out of his mind the last 2 weeks. It had to be a 6 to 8 week injury, and he came back a little early. And now I think he's rounding the form. He's turned in the first half, Russell Wilson. And I think the Rams are going to be decimated by COVID. They have, like, as you said at the beginning of the show, they have 8 people, including Odell, and it's still Ramsey and Henderson still on COVID. So, and it's a division game. They usually play him tough. And Pete Carroll's playing for his job.
It's true. My first one, I'm going to go Raiders +3 over the Cleveland Browns. I know the Raiders are coming off a really bad loss against the Chiefs, but the Browns, they have, I think, 11 guys now out with COVID. Jarvis Landry, Austin Hooper. Feels like this is a good spot for the Raiders to win a game against the Browns. The Browns, that second half performance against the Ravens was awful. And they should have lost that. I don't want to say they should have lost that game, but they played awful. They didn't convert on an onside kick. The defense struggled at the end. Baker Mayfield, it still seems off to me. I like the Raiders +3, and I like the Raiders to actually win the game. Next pick for you.
Next, I have the Packers -5 over the Ravens. The Ravens are abysmal. They don't have Lamar Jackson. I don't think he's going to play, and they don't have anybody on defense. The only thing that's worrying about me is Aaron Rodgers is rumbling around. Then he might. Is he going to, like, sit out, or is he going to have surgery?
He says
like,
surgery is like the last resort, so. It is weird he keeps talking about it, though. That's kind of odd.
It's true. He, like, lit up the Bear. I know it's the Bears, but, like.
Yeah, but why are you giving defenses an advantage by talking about it? Because he was like, well, if someone steps on it, like, I'm in a lot of trouble. It's like, why would you say that?
I think it's because of him. It's just like, I'm better than all of you, and I'm on 1 foot.
But, like, why would you? I don't know. To me, I don't understand why you would say it. Next pick for me, I'm going to go Patriots +2.5 over the Colts. Patriots keep on winning. They're underdogs in Indy. Bill Belichick off a bye week, and I'm not going to pick against the Patriots until they lose a game. And it seems like they dodged a bullet with Damian Harris and Adrian Phillips, both who practiced today, and they both look like they're going to be viable for the Patriots on Saturday. I also think the Indianapolis Colts, Carson Wentz, he still scares me. I like the Patriots +2.5, and I like them to win another game on the road, and I think improving to 10-4 will do a lot for their chances of that 1 seed and the AFC East in general. It's a big game.
Yeah, please call it to be actually healthy so I can actually gauge this team. Jonathan Taylor, please don't get COVID on, like, Friday. I've already seen that coming. But I have the Bengals +2 over the Broncos. I think the Bengals really need it. I think Joe Burrow is going to ride them to victory, and they need it for the 7th seed. Or the 6th seed. I still have the Bengals, I think, making the playoff. Actually, no, I don't, because I have the Dolphins making the playoffs.
Yeah, I was gonna say how many wild card teams you want? You gotta pick, Peter. It's
Never
like
mind.
3.
Never mind.
Next, you had the Bengals, you said, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna double down with you at what do you have +2, right?
Yeah.
Bengals +2. That's gonna be my premium pick of the week here. I'm not a believer in Denver. I don't care if the game's in Denver or not. I think the Bengals bounce back because they need a win here. They need one. Bengals +2. I like the pick here. I think Burrow another week healthier. I think Joe Mixon has a nice game. Shout out you. Bengals +2.
That's exactly why I have the Bills -10.5. They over the Panthers. They need this game. If they lose this game, they're out of the playoffs and out of the consideration just in general because they face the Patriots, and I think it's over after that.
Yeah.
Does Sean McDermott get fired if they don't make the playoffs?
No, I don't
No?
think so. No, not yet.
Right.
Because they just went to the AFC title game.
Yeah,
I don't think so yet.
That's true.
Next game for me, I am going to go with the Steelers plus 1.5 over the Titans. Steelers as a home underdog. Feels like when Mike Tomlin's an underdog, the Steelers fare pretty well, especially as of late. And again, the game against Minnesota this past Thursday, they were getting their butts kicked and they should have got blown up by 30. And they fought and they lost in the last possession. Shout out Claypool. I like the Steelers to bounce back and win here. They've been off since Thursday. They had 10 days off. It's a good spot for them. Tennessee's still kind of banged up, and I'm not fully buying them. Their offense really didn't do too much against Jacksonville. I mean, they really sputtered out on a lot of it. They got Julio Jones back, and I don't know. I like the spot for the Steelers here in a bounce back game.
That is a team to bet on the AFC. They just put out a report that Derrick Henry is going to be ready for Week 18 if needed.
I'm not surprised.
So, and my premium pick of the week is the Dolphins minus 8.5 over the Jets. It's the Jets. Don't overthink it. Dolphins have won like 5 games in a row, 6 games in a row.
I think now it's 5 or 6.
5 games in a row. And listen, I have them running the table and making the 17th. Sorry,
Peter's gonna stick on that hill. So.
Go to listen. Unless it doesn't happen, I'm riding that wave forever. Go to a comeback player of the year.
Oh my goodness, what a change of tune. My final pick of the week: Bucs minus 11 over the Saints. I understand that the Saints blew out the Bucs last year on Sunday Night Football, but this Saints team, they're just not as what they were last year. Quarterback aside, the offense is just not good. I know Taysom Hill got the win over the Jets, but even then, they struggle to put up points. And I think Tampa's rolling. They're going to roll in this game. And I think Tampa knows that they have an opportunity at the 1 seed. And I think the Bucs probably win this game by 17, 20 points. And I think Brady makes another run at that MVP award, and he probably throws 4 touchdown passes in the game. Bucs minus 11.
Oh my God! I hope the Bucs play the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean that is.
Oh my God, that'd be the best.
I don't know who I want you. I think I'd probably want you to bet on Brady.
Yeah, okay.
Because every time you bet on Brady, he bet against Brady, he wins.
It's true.
Like
listen, it's gonna be the Chiefs and Patriots, so it doesn't matter.
The AFC title game?
Yeah, I think so.
Buckle up. That'd be a wild one.
I think the Patriots need to make the 1 seed though for that to happen. Because I don't think they can win.
Yeah, going to KC and winning is not the easiest of tasks. But Peter, got anything else?
Just Brady, please don't win MVP. Stay hot.
Win the MVP, Peter. Suck it.